The midday sun, a blinding, merciless orb, scalded the endless expanse of parched, dun-colored prairie grass that stretched unbroken to a horizon shimmering with heat. Caleb "Cal" Thorne was 22, but out here, wrestling the reins of his sturdy mare, Kestrel, he felt every inch the tenderfoot the seasoned hands had mocked. He wiped a streak of gritty sweat from his brow, his squinting eyes burning against the harsh glare. 3 days. 3 agonizing days since a chaotic electrical storm had scattered their cattle drive and violently separated him from the crew. Now he was utterly alone, adrift in the heart of what every settler from Cedar Creek called Apache land. The names had been burned into his memory since childhood. Names of savage raids, of phantom warriors appearing and vanishing among the towering mesas. Cal tried to dismiss the chilling tales as superstition, but the heat haze on the rock formations seemed to transform into watching figures, and his hand instinctively sought the cold, heavy comfort of the .45 revolver holstered at his hip. He was a man who had never even drawn a gun in anger, never even aimed at a man, yet in this hostile silence, the weight of the steel felt like the last, fragile tie to the world of men. Kestrel, a bay mare of remarkable toughness, picked her way with unsettling caution through the broken, rocky terrain. They had been climbing steadily since dawn, pursuing a vague, deer-worn trail that Cal desperately hoped would lead them back to the familiar landmarks of the northern pastures. But, with every passing hour, the land grew more alien and forbidding. Rust-red rock formations, sharper and more menacing than any he had seen, jutted from the earth like the teeth of ancient gods, and deep, impassable canyons cut through the ground like surgical scars. "Easy, girl," Cal whispered, his voice thin and dry. The mare snorted, her ears swiveling constantly, alerting him to dangers his own exhausted human eyes could not perceive. Animals always knew. The memory of his father, Silas Thorne, brought a familiar aching lump to his throat, a hard man, made harder by the loss of Cal's mother when he was just 7. Silas had raised his son with rough hands and few words, teaching him to rope and ride, but little about the gentler aspects of life. Cal had left home partly to escape that suffocating silence, partly to prove his worth. Now, lost in territory woven with whispers of danger, he regretted every moment he hadn't focused on Silas's lessons about reading the intricate language of the land. The afternoon wore on, and Cal's dwindling canteen felt insultingly light. He had rationed the water religiously, but the desert's insatiable heat sucked the moisture from his body faster than any man could replace it. His lips were cracked and bleeding, his throat raw. Kestrel needed water, too. Her dark coat was matted with sweat, and her breathing had become a shallow, rasping sound. Then he saw it. A thread. A vibrant green, startling against the ochre and rust of the stone, snaking through a narrow fissure below. Cottonwoods and willows, the unmistakable signature of water. Cal's heart soared, but a deep chill of caution immediately tempered the relief. Water meant life, but in the desert, it also meant a gathering place for everything. Predator and prey, traveler and warrior. Still, he had no choice. Without water, both he and Kestrel would collapse before the next sunrise. He guided the mare down a precarious deer trail, loose scree skittering and echoing beneath her hooves. The temperature dropped instantly as they descended into the deep shade of the canyon walls. It was cooler, but the shadows seemed to press in on all sides, suffocating and watchful. The hair on Cal's neck prickled with the sensation of being observed, yet he saw nothing but rock and stubborn, scraggly sage. The descent led them to a small, spring-fed pool, its water a crystal mirror, clear and profoundly inviting. Cal dismounted, his legs stiff and trembling from hours in the saddle. He let Kestrel drink first, keeping his hand tight on his pistol grip and his eyes constantly sweeping the fractured canyon walls. The silence here was absolute, broken only by the gentle slurp of water and the mare's grateful snorts. That's when he noticed the signs. Prints in the soft mud near the edge of the pool, not large, rounded prints like Kestrel's, but the small, sure tracks of shod ponies. Apache. The tracks were alarmingly fresh, perhaps only hours old. Cal's mouth went dry again, his desperate thirst forgotten. Every instinct screamed at him to mount up and ride hard back the way he'd come. But Kestrel was flagging, and his throat was agony. He had to drink. He knelt by the pool, cupping the cool water in his trembling hands and drinking deeply. It tasted of minerals, earth, and pure, astonishing life, the sweetest thing he had ever known. He splashed some onto his burning face and neck, feeling a fragile return to humanity. While he was focused on the water, the sky had begun a profound, menacing transformation. What had been cloudless blue was now massing with thunderheads on the western horizon. The wind picked up sharply, carrying the electric, sharp scent of rain and lightning. Cal recognized that smell. A desert storm, a big one, was coming. Desert storms were notoriously violent. Flash floods could turn this gentle wash into a raging, rock-tumbling torrent in minutes. Lightning struck with deadly accuracy on high ground, and the rain, when it came, would fall in blinding sheets. Cal looked around frantically for shelter. The canyon walls offered insufficient protection. Then he spotted it. A narrow, deep cleft in the rock face, barely visible behind a screen of thorny mesquite. It looked deep enough to shelter both him and Kestrel from the worst of the deluge. He led the mare toward the opening, having to push through the grabbing, tenacious thorns that tore viciously at his already tattered shirt. The space beyond was larger than it appeared, a natural cave carved by centuries of wind and water. It was dim, but the sandy floor looked dry and safe from flooding. Cal had just begun to unsaddle Kestrel when the first drops of rain began to fall, fat, heavy, and spaced far apart. Within moments, the drops became a horizontal deluge. Lightning cracked across the sky, so bright it seared his eyes, followed instantly by thunder that vibrated through the stone beneath his feet. Kestrel whinnied nervously, and Cal soothed her with gentle words and a steady hand on her flank. He was a stranger in a strange land, trapped by the fury of nature in a silent, dark cave that might already be sheltering something else. Apache warriors, mountain lions, or worse. The storm roared outside, turning the entire world into a chaos of noise and water. Cal checked his pistol for the 10th time, ensured his rifle was within easy reach, and settled down to wait. As night began to fall, the oppressive heat plummeted, replaced by a bitter, bone-deep cold. Cal pulled his bedroll from his saddlebags, wrapping it around his shoulders. He didn't dare light a fire. The smoke would be a beacon, drawing unwanted attention. He sat in the gathering darkness, listening to the cacophony of the storm and fighting the primal fear that crept up his spine like a cold hand. He thought of Cedar Creek, of the rough comfort of the saloon, and of Alara Vane, the banker's daughter, who had smiled at him last Sunday. He'd been working up the courage to ask her to the summer dance. Now, he wondered if he'd ever see civilization again. The storm showed no sign of relenting. If anything, it grew more violent as full darkness clamped down. Water began to seep in at the cave entrance, and Cal moved deeper inside, pulling Kestrel with him. It was then, in a blinding, instantaneous flash of lightning that illuminated the cave like daylight, that he realized he wasn't alone. In that brief, shocking moment, Cal's heart seized. There, pressed against the farthest wall of the cave, stood a figure draped in shadow. His hand flew to his pistol grip, ready to draw and fire, but before he could act, another searing flash of light revealed what the darkness had hidden. A woman. She wore a dress of soft buckskin, decorated with intricate dark beadwork that caught the intermittent light like tiny scattered stars. Her long black hair fell loose and heavy around her shoulders, and her eyes, dark and wide with immediate alarm, fixed on him with the intensity of a cornered wildcat. She was Apache, no doubt about it, but younger than he'd expected, perhaps no more than 20 summers. They stood frozen, two opposing forces assessing each other across the cave's sandy floor. Cal's hand remained on his pistol grip, but he held his fire. The woman held a slender skinning knife, its razor-sharp blade catching the lightning's glare. Kestrel snorted nervously. Between them, sensing the palpable tension that crackled through the air, louder than the storm outside. "Easy," Cal said, though he wasn't sure if he was speaking to the woman, his horse, or himself. His voice sounded strange and small, competing with the rain's deafening roar. The woman's grip on her knife tightened, but she did not advance. When she spoke, her English was heavily accented, but clear and forceful. "You leave. This my place." Cal swallowed hard, his throat tightening. Outside, the storm was a monster. Sheets of rain so thick he couldn't see the canyon wall opposite the cave entrance. "Can't do that, miss. Storm's too bad. I'll stay on my side. You stay on yours." Her laugh was bitter, devoid of humor. White man's promise worth nothing. The contempt in her voice stung Cal more deeply than he expected. He slowly removed his hand from his pistol, holding both palms up in what he hoped was a universally peaceful gesture. I ain't looking for trouble, just shelter from the storm, same as you. She studied him for a long, grueling moment, clearly weighing her dire options. The cave was large enough for both of them, but trust was a currency long spent in this land. Finally, she lowered her knife slightly, though she kept it ready. You stay there. Come close, I cut you. Cal nodded, moving to the opposite side of the cave with Kestrel. He could feel her dark eyes burning into him as he settled his horse, checking her hooves and rubbing her down with a piece of burlap from his saddlebags. The familiar routine calmed his frantic nerves somewhat. What's your name? He asked, not looking at her directly. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, before she answered. Tala. My white name, Sarah. And your real name? This time, the pause was longer, filled with a sigh of history. Tala. It means eternal blossom. The bitterness crept back into her voice. Stupid name for a stupid girl who believed lies. Cal risked a glance at her. In the sporadic lightning flashes, he could see she was fiercely beautiful, with high, proud cheekbones and a regal bearing, despite her evident distress. But there was a deep, fundamental break in her eyes, a profound hurt that went deeper than fear of a stranger. I'm Caleb Thorne, he offered, from Cedar Creek. I know Cedar Creek, she said, and there was something dark and knowing in her tone. Your people there kill my cousin. Say he steal horse. He never steal nothing. Cal felt the familiar, crushing weight of guilt that came with being part of a world that dealt so brutally with her people. He had heard the story. A young Apache hanged last spring. The evidence had been thin, but the town's mind had been decided before the trial began. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. Sorry, she repeated the word like it was a foreign, meaningless sound. White men always sorry. Aye, after. She shifted position, and Cal noticed she favored her left side, moving stiffly. You hurt? Her hand moved protectively to her ribs. Not your concern, white man. They lapsed into silence, the storm providing a constant, deafening backdrop. Cal pulled out his meager supplies, hardtack, jerky, and a can of peaches he'd been saving for an emergency. His stomach gave a loud, embarrassing growl, reminding him he hadn't eaten since morning. He glanced at Tala, who sat rigid against the wall, and made a decision. You hungry? Got food to share. She looked at him with profound suspicion. Why you share? Cal shrugged. My ma always said a meal tastes better with company, even if the company wants to stick a knife in you. He attempted a smile. For the first time, her stern expression cracked slightly. Your mother, she observed. She dead. Long time ago, when I was young. My mother, too. Soldiers come to camp. She tried protect children. Tala's voice dropped to a barely audible whisper. She not fast enough. The weight of her words settled over Cal like a heavy blanket. He'd heard stories of cavalry raids on Apache camps, but they had always been distant, abstract atrocities. Sitting across from this woman, seeing the pain etched in her face, made it devastatingly real. He opened the can of peaches with his knife, setting it between them like a peace offering. Peaches might help. Sweet things sometimes do. Tala stared at the can for a long moment before finally reaching out. Her fingers were elegant and slender, Cal noticed, despite the calluses of hard living. She took a piece of fruit, eating it slowly, savoring the sweetness. Why are you alone? She asked eventually. Cowboys always travel like pack of wolves. Truth this time. Cal was surprised she had sensed his earlier evasion. Got in a fight with one of the older hands, Jed Kane. He said I was too soft, too green. Said I'd never make it as a real cowboy. He gave a self-conscious laugh. Guess I wanted to prove him wrong. Thought if I could bring the strays in by myself, show I didn't need help. Pride, Tala said simply, makes fools of everyone. What about you? There's more to your story than a bad marriage. Tala was quiet for so long, Cal thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above the sound of the rain. Yellow Horse's son. He wants son. Strong Apache son. But I give him daughter. Small, weak daughter who die before moon is full. He say I cursed. That mission school poisoned my womb. His mother agree. They... She trailed off, her hand moving to her ribs again. They hurt you. It wasn't a question. They try to fix me, old way, with fists and curses. And when that not work, they take me to desert. Say spirits will judge. If I worthy, I survive. If not, she shrugged, the gesture a physical expression of utter abandonment. Cal felt a surge of cold, protective rage. That ain't right. That ain't any kind of right. Right, wrong, white man's words. Apache have different words. Duty, honor, shame. She looked at him directly. You know shame, Caleb Thorne? He thought about it. About all the times he'd felt less than others, less than his father demanded. Yeah, I know shame. Then you understand. Shame worse than death. Death ends. Shame follows like shadow. Cal moved without thinking, sliding across the cave floor until he was sitting closer to her, though still at a respectful distance. Tala tensed, her hand moving instinctively to her knife. I ain't gonna hurt you, he said softly. Just, nobody should carry that alone. She stared at him for a long moment, then slowly relaxed her grip on the knife. You strange white man, Caleb Thorne. My ma used to say I was too soft-hearted for my own good. He smiled at the memory, said it would get me in trouble one day. Your mother was wise woman. Tala pulled the blanket tighter. Soft hearts break easy in hard world. Maybe, but they also feel more, see more. He gestured vaguely. Like right now, another man might just see an enemy. I see a woman who's been hurt bad and is still fighting. Fighting for what? I have no people, no place, no purpose. You're still here, still breathing. That's something. Apache are hard to kill, even broken ones. The rain was finally beginning to slacken. The constant roar diminished to a steady patter. Soon, the storm would pass, and they'd have to face whatever came next. What will you do when the storm ends? He asked. Walk until I can't walk more. She said it matter-of-factly. That's no kind of plan. What else is there? Cannot go back to Red Rock Band, cannot go to White Town. Other Apache bands will not take woman with shame. So I walk. Cal's mind raced. There had to be another option. Travel with me, just until we reach somewhere safe. 2 people are safer than 1 out here. Tala looked at him like he'd suggested they fly to the moon. Travel with white man? You know what your people say about Apache woman who goes with white man? I know what they say. Doesn't matter if it keeps you alive. Easy words from someone who never been called those names. But something in her expression had shifted, a tiny crack in her armor of despair. Maybe being a man ain't about being the toughest or the strongest, he said slowly. Maybe it's about standing by someone when the whole world says you shouldn't. Pretty words, Caleb Thorne, but sun will rise, and pretty words fade in daylight. Then I guess we'll see what kind of man I am come morning. Rest, Tala said unexpectedly. I keep watch. The way she said, we made Cal's heart lift slightly. It wasn't agreement yet, but it wasn't rejection either. Tala, he said, as sleep began to claim him. Your name? It's beautiful. Suits you better than Sarah. He thought he heard her breath catch, but sleep pulled him under before he could be sure. Cal woke to find pale dawn light filtering into the cave. He sat up quickly, heart racing, to find Tala still there, sitting exactly where he'd left her, his blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She was watching the cave entrance with the profound stillness of someone who had kept vigil all night. You didn't sleep, he said, his voice rough. Apache women learn to go without sleep when danger is near. She turned to look at him, and in the growing light, he could see the exhaustion etched on her face along with something else, fading bruises along her jawline. The sight made his stomach knot. 7 days, maybe 8, she said, knowing his silent question. Hard to remember when each day is about not dying. We need supplies, Cal said, standing stiffly. Real food, medicine for your ribs, ammunition. Towns mean danger, Tala replied. So does starving in the desert. He strapped on his gun belt. There's a trading post about half a day's ride south. Alistair McLaughlin runs it. He's different. Trades with everyone, Mexican, Apache, white. Long as your money's good, he don't ask questions. She rose stiffly. And if he does ask, then we handle it. He helped her mount Kestrel. She couldn't quite hide her grimace of pain. You're going to have to ride today, no argument. She nodded reluctantly. They set off with Cal walking alongside, one hand on Kestrel's neck. By midday, they could see the trading post, a squat adobe structure with corrals attached, looking more like a fort than a store. Smoke rose from the chimney, and Cal could see horses in the corral. "Wait here," Cal said, helping her dismount in a cluster of mesquite. "Let me go in first, see who's about. If trouble, you take Kestrel and ride. Don't look back." "I not leave you, Caleb." Her voice was firm. "Together or not at all. You say this to me now, I say to you." Cal squared his shoulders and walked toward the post. The heavy wooden door creaked open, revealing Alistair McLaughlin, a bear of a man with graying red hair and arms like tree trunks. "Well now," Alistair rumbled. "Caleb Thorne, heard you got yourself lost in Apache country. News travels fast, faster when there's a bounty involved." He winked. "Relax, boy. $50 ain't worth the trouble of hauling you back to Cedar Creek." Cal glanced around, noting 2 Mexicans playing cards and a rough-looking American cleaning a rifle. "I need supplies, food, medicine, ammunition." "Medicine, eh? For your companion?" Alistair's eyebrows rose. This companion wouldn't happen to be the Apache woman Jed Kane was ranting about last night. "He was here?" Cal's hand drifted to his gun. Left at first light, heading back to Cedar Creek with quite a tale. Alistair leaned on the counter, studying Cal intently. "You know what you're doing, son? I'm trying to keep someone alive, that's all." "That ain't all, and we both know it." Alistair sighed heavily. "But I ain't one to judge." He gestured toward the back room. "Bring her in. Isa knows healing better than any doctor." He raised his voice. "You others clear out. Stores close for an hour." Cal went to fetch Tala, finding her ready to bolt. "It's all right. McLaughlin's different." When Tala emerged, walking easier with her ribs properly wrapped by Isa, Alistair spoke to Cal on the porch. "It ain't gonna be easy, son. Most folks will actively try to stop you. I married Isa when such things were even less accepted than now. Lost my family, my position, what they called my good name." He gazed out at the desert. "But I gained something worth more. A real partner. Someone who stands beside me anyway." "There's a place," Alistair said eventually. "South and west of here. Little valley with good water, hidden from the main trails. A man could build something there. Far enough from civilization that folks would leave you be." Tala looked at Cal, hope and fear warring in her dark eyes. "The place McLaughlin speaks of. You really think we could make something there?" "I think we could try." That evening, lying in the narrow bed in the back room, Cal listened to Tala's breathing. Just when he thought she was asleep, her voice came soft in the darkness. "Caleb Thorne." "Yeah." "Today, when you face down Jed Kane's friends, not knowing if they friend or enemy, when you stand ready to fight for me. No one ever do that before, not even my own people. You're worth fighting for," he said simply. "I sleep now?" she interrupted gently. "Tomorrow we decide. Tonight is enough to know we both willing to try." The peace of morning shattered with a thunder of hoofbeats. Cal jerked awake. Alistair was already at the window with his rifle. "Riders coming, 6, maybe 7, moving fast." "That's Jed Kane in the lead," Alistair cursed. "Looks like he's brought friends." Through the window, Cal recognized faces from Cedar Creek, Clyde Easton, Garrett Vance, even Eli Thorne, his own distant cousin. "They're after the bounty," Alistair said. "Figure bringing you back along with an Apache woman will make them heroes." "I won't let them take her," Cal said, checking his revolver. 8 against 4, counting Isa, she corrected from behind them, holding a shotgun with practiced ease. Cal pushed past Alistair onto the porch, Tala close behind, knife ready. "I'm not going back," Cal said clearly. "Tell my father I'm sorry for disappointing him, but I've made my choice." "Choice?" Kane spat in the dust. "You call throwing away your life for a piece of Apache trash a choice?" Tala stepped forward, head high. "I am Tala of the Western Apache, daughter of warriors, granddaughter of chiefs. I am not trash." "She's trying to spook you," Kane hissed. "I speak death song," Tala announced in clear English. "I tell spirits I die without shame, that I choose my own path even to the end. I tell them your names so they know who sends me to the other side. So they wait for you there." She looked directly at Cal. "I tell them he is worth dying beside." "Nobody's dying today," Cal said, stepping forward. "You want me, Kane? Fine, but you'll have to go through me to get to her, and I promise you'll pay a price you won't like." "We've held off Comanche war parties from this post," Alistair called out. "You boys don't look near as tough." Eli Thorne was the first to lower his hand from his weapon. "This is wrong. Cal's making his own choice. Ain't our place to stop him." He turned his horse and rode away. The odds had shifted. The remaining men hesitated. Isa fired her shotgun into the ceiling. "Next one goes lower. You want to die for $50? That's what happens next." Kane held for another long moment, then slowly relaxed his gun hand. "This ain't over, Thorne. Your father's going to want answers." "Then tell them I found something worth more than their approval," Cal replied. One by one, the riders turned away. "The valley," Cal said to Alistair. "The place you mentioned. We need to leave now." Isa pressed a packet into Tala's hands. "Medicines and herbs for healing, for later, when babies come." As they mounted Kestrel together, Tala pulled Cal aside. "The words I spoke, the death song was also marriage song. Same words for Apache, death of old life, birth of new. We are bound now, if you accept." "I accept," Cal said, pulling her close. "We are bound," Alistair called out from the porch. "The valley I mentioned. Look for the old Apache prayer tree. Still bears fruit after all these years." They rode away as the sun climbed toward noon, two people from different worlds, choosing to write a new story together. They rode hard for the rest of the day, following the map toward the hidden valley. The confrontation had shaken them, but also liberated them. "We need to talk about what comes next," Cal said, as they made camp that night. "The truth of what we're facing. Your people will not forgive. My people will not forgive. We will be hunted by both." Cal dismounted and helped Tala down from Kestrel, then took both her hands in his. "Tala, I don't have a ring or a preacher, but I know that when those men came for us, my first thought wasn't about saving myself. It was about protecting you, and you became the most important thing in my world." "True words," she said, her hands tightening on his. "I accept your marriage song. I choose you. Wherever it leads. Then I choose you, Tala," he whispered. "My wife." They found shelter in a cluster of rocks. As they sat close by the fire, Tala leaned against Cal's shoulder. "Tell me about your vision for us," she said. "A small place first, adobe and timber. Maybe run some horses. Garden for food. Simple life, but our own. Children?" The question was barely audible. "If we're blessed with them, we teach them that belonging isn't about blood or birthplace. It's about who stands with you. We teach them they belong with us, always." Tala's eyes glistened. "When did you become wise, Caleb Thorne?" "About 5 minutes ago. Don't expect it to last." They talked deep into the night, sharing dreams of a house with real windows and a corral full of horses. When Cal banked the fire, Tala caught his hand. "Just being here with you, knowing you're mine and I'm yours, that's enough for now." The next day they found the entrance to the valley, hidden by a natural fold in the land. A narrow trail opened suddenly into a paradise. A valley perhaps 2 miles long, surrounded by protective cliffs. A stream ran through the center, feeding cottonwoods and willows. "Look," Tala breathed, pointing. At the far end stood a massive cottonwood, its trunk gnarled with age. From its branches hung strips of faded cloth and beads. "The prayer tree," Cal said. Tala dismounted and moved to the tree with reverence. "The spirits here judge not by blood, but by heart." She held out her hand to Cal. "Come, we ask blessing together." Cal took her hand, and they tied a strip of cloth from her dress to a branch. "What did we ask for?" he said when they finished. "For strength, for wisdom, for children who will know both worlds without being torn by either." "So this is home," Cal said, looking around the valley with new eyes. "This is beginning," Tala corrected. "Home is what we build together." Over the next few days, they mapped the valley, found the best site for building, and began imagining the shape of their life. On the 3rd day, a lone rider emerged from the hidden trail. "Eli Thorne," Cal called out, gun drawn. "It's just me. I come in peace." Eli dismounted at a respectful distance. He tossed a leather satchel to Cal. "Your inheritance from your mother's side. Your father never told you about it. I withdrew it." The satchel contained enough money to build a real life. "Why?" Cal finally managed. Eli looked at Tala, standing proud and watchful. "Because what I saw wasn't wrong, just different. Because love shouldn't be a crime. And maybe if more folks chose love over hate, My brother might still be alive. Tala stepped forward. I grieve with you for your brother. May his spirit find peace. Eli left at first light, promising to return in a few months with supplies. With the money, their plans became concrete. They made the tense 3-day journey to the nearest trading town. Their appearance caused a sensation, but the store owner, a German immigrant named Muller, treated them with courtesy. Money is money, he said, and love is love. They returned with everything needed: tools, nails, seeds, a new pack mule, and even a small glass window for their future home. Over the following weeks, their adobe house rose from the ground brick by brick. Cal learned to mix mud plaster under Tala's guidance. The day they installed the window, Tala stood before it in wonder. "Glass in the desert," she murmured. "My grandmother would not believe." As summer gave way to early fall, their small house was complete. 3 rooms, a porch, and irrigation channels dug from the stream. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Tala took Cal's hand and placed it on her stomach. "The dream was true," she said softly. "Spring will bring more than growing plants." Cal's heart raced. "You're sure?" "Woman knows. Apache woman especially knows." She smiled at his expression. "First of many, if spirits are kind." They sat together on their hand-built porch, planning names and dreaming of a new generation. Cal thought about the journey that had brought them here: a frightened boy lost in a storm, an Apache woman fleeing abandonment. "No regrets?" he asked as he had that day at McLaughlin's. "Only one," Tala said, and his heart clenched until she continued. "I regret we did not meet sooner. Think of all the days we could have had together already." Cal kissed her temple, breathing in the scent of sage and home. "We have all the days ahead. That's enough, more than enough." In the distance, coyotes began their evening song, but tonight the sound didn't seem lonely. It seemed like celebration. The young cowboy who'd been trapped with an Apache bride had finally found the courage to create a life outside the boundaries others had drawn. In that hidden valley, their love would grow like the gardens they tended, proof that different roots could intertwine to create something beautiful and strong.